I'm going to say neither. I think they're right in the middle of those two options, Ryan. That was a very leading question.
Yeah.
That they either live up to the hype or they're a total disaster. I mean, what kind of question is that? No, I'm just kidding you. But
because I feel like 9 wins, 10 wins is a total disaster for like what the fans are buying into right now, obviously. Because like last year,
I don't
the
know.
quarterback play was
Honestly,
so
I think
bad.
total disaster is not making the playoffs, right? Let's be honest, okay? They gave up too much for Rodgers, especially if he might only play 1 year. But the GM is in year 5. The head coach is in year 3. They have this long playoff drought. Those guys are on the hot seat. Rodgers comes in. They win 10 games. They go to the playoffs. Joe Douglas, the GM, Robert Saleh, head coach, get contract extensions. They're even richer than they already are. They don't have next year's first-round pick. They don't even know if Rodgers will play, but who cares? At that point, they got the contract extension. I mean, you always have to look at the inherent self-interest around every NFL decision. I think the Jets make the playoffs. You know, I've had Jets fans tell me they gotta win a playoff game, or they gotta at least get to the divisional round. I think that's possible. I'd be surprised if they went further than that. I kind of think you got to walk before you can run in the postseason, and with the Chiefs and the Bengals and even the Bills, like I was looking at the Dolphins roster, they're loaded. I mean, the Dolphins are loaded. If Tua stays healthy, I just think it's going to be a battle for the Jets. And Rodgers wasn't able to get to the Super Bowl playing in the NFC at home with the Packers. So now we think highly likely the Jets will be on the road in the playoffs. He's going to go to like Cincinnati and Kansas City and win playoff games. I don't see that happening. Chargers with Kellen Moore. I mean, the Broncos, that was just so bad last year. And if Sean Payton, first of all, if Sean Payton can't turn around Russell Wilson, then probably nobody can. But I'd also say I have a tough time picturing Russell Wilson getting back to the guy we saw in Seattle. I mean, that would be almost a 180 of what we saw last year. Whereas the Chargers, it feels like, you know, they did have that big lead in the playoff game that they blew, but it feels like they can build on what they did last year. You know, the Cowboys guys, second in the NFL the last 4 years in yards and points. Second. With like DiNucci and Cooper Rush and these guys starting games. I have no idea why the fans wanted Kellen Moore out in Dallas. That was a terrible decision. I think the Chargers and Herbert take the next step this year with Kellen Moore as the OC. And I think it's probably what ends up holding the Cowboys back, Mike McCarthy calling the plays.
I'm going to take a vet in future first-round ballot Hall of Famer Derek Carr in New Orleans with an established offense. I don't love Dennis Allen. In fact, if this team falls, I'm going to put it squarely on the feet of head coach Dennis Allen. But I like a vet quarterback that I think caught the shaft in Vegas, who's got, if he comes back, Michael Thomas. Chris Olave out of Ohio State blew it open, and when he gets Alvin Kamara back, that's going to be a wide-open offense. They can go win some 35-32 shootouts. I got to lean New Orleans here.
Here's what scares me away from the Saints. I like that they play the easiest schedule. I do think Derek Carr, by default, is an upgrade. I bought into Jameis last year because 2 years ago, you got to remember, like they got off that 5-2 start, and Jameis was playing the best football we've ever seen. He had 14 touchdowns and just 3 picks. He was protecting the football, just running the offense. Then he got hurt. And then last year, it was just a mess, like right off the bat, man. They just did not live up to expectations, live up to the hype, and it's because Michael Thomas once again was hurt. Olave was great. Kamara, like, wasn't the back that he had been. He couldn't get in the end zone. Now he's going to be suspended for 4 games this season. So I'm there on Carolina, but, like, I think Carolina just might take some time. What I was looking at is the schedule. The first 6 weeks of the season, it's the 10th toughest schedule in all of football. 4 of their 6 games are on the road. In 5 of those 6 games, and obviously, like, the NFL is tough to predict because there's change every year. There's turnover every year. There's so much parity. But 5 of the teams that they face the first 6 weeks all are projected to have a winning record if you look at their win totals this season. Then after that, though, they get a bye week. You'll have a young quarterback that's looking at the second half of the season, and anybody you talk to is like, you know, rookies aren't really rookies it's kind of like we talk about with college football with freshmen, like those first couple weeks of the season. After their week 7 bye, second easiest schedule in the NFL, only to Atlanta. Only 3 of their 11 opponents after that are projected to have winning records, man. And they have a bunch of home games. So I could see like Carolina being that team that gets hot the second half of the season. And if they look like a mess the first half of the season, we might get really good betting value. I couldn't do it with the Saints. I love the defensive side of the ball. Top 5 defense again last year. You bring all those guys back. I don't know what it is, man. They let me down last year. And I think it's going to be like Atlanta with Arthur Smith, or it's going to be Carolina year 1 with Frank Reich that surprised some people. I'm all.
Do they have the depth that they've had? Clemson didn't just succeed by having great talent in the starting 11 defensively. They succeeded because they were 2 and 3 deep, better than a lot of defenses were. And I don't know if they have that talent this year like they've had in years past. Florida State's offense is going to put up like 37-40 a game this year. They're going to be good. Cade Klubnik, big question mark. We've primarily seen him as a quarterback in a run-first offense last year. They're going to turn him loose this year, and he's got weapons on the outside to take advantage of that. But as much as I want to buy in on Cade, I can't do it until I've seen him do it. And we're going to get them out of the gate because that Duke game is real interesting for a guy who's true, like getting his first year as you're the guy, no DJ, no pressure. I'm intrigued by it, but I don't know if Clemson has the depth that they've had in years past, and that has been the secret sauce to making them Clemson. I got like a 1% lead toward Florida State to win the ACC this year.
If you look at the remaining schedule, the Rays play the toughest schedule in all of baseball, whereas like Baltimore is, I think, 14th or 15th. I mean, but it's not going to get any easier for the Rays. And you look at the teams that they were beating up on early in the season, it was kind of a cupcake schedule. Again, they did get off to a 20-3 start, so that's pretty tough to do in baseball. But you look at like the season-long numbers, and they're still plus 144 in run differential. The Orioles are just sitting there plus 48. You know, the Rays we're still the favorites to win that division. I know like a lot of that is based off Fangraphs. Pacoda coming into the season even kind of saw Baltimore as like a 500 team. So right now, I guess what I'm asking you, is this just like a down spell for the Rays? Right now, I mean, you look in July, 4-14. You look at the splits, 203, 301, 313 they hit in that series. Right now, like everything is just a mess. Do you think that this is just, hey, it's 162 games, it's a long year? Do you think that like this is a free fall? Like I don't even know if the Rays finish in second place in this division, man.
No, it's not a free fall.
You know?
It's just where they are, right? Like we talked about earlier. It took them the better part of 42 games to lose 10. That's impressive. And then since then, it took them about 15 games to win 10 because for the last 63 games now, they have been at or below 500, right? If a team goes out and they drop, I don't know, 10 of 17, 10 of 20, you can go, okay, that's a bad spell. This is a 60-game stretch where the Rays have been playing 500 ball. And, like, yeah, it's great when you go beat up the Royals and you run them down 14-2 and you add to the differential. Run differential means something, but I'd say it means more to some teams than others. Run differential for that run that the Braves went on before the All-Star break to get to the top record of baseball, that's a run differential that registers because that's a team that was winning with the bats. It doesn't matter as much to me for Tampa because I don't care if you've got a plus 144 run differential if you're playing 500 baseball in a division that you cannot play 500 baseball and win. So, you know, you can mention the pin, and that's great. There's spot. Randy Arozarena for the first 40 games was America's favorite baseball player, courtesy of the greatest baseball event I can remember, the World Baseball Classic. We were all on board with the crossed arms and the mean mug. I absolutely loved it. We haven't talked about that guy in a month and a half.
I'd be lying if I said it's not the Los Angeles Dodgers. You know they're going to make a move at the deadline. If not, they're going to make like 3 moves. Lucas Giolito is a name that I think is being floated around. There's talk of Nolan Arenado being a serious target for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're a team that absolutely scares the living hell out of me. Why? Because we expect them to finish third in their division this year, and they're not finishing third. They're somehow still the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had the 4th worst bullpen in Major League Baseball for 2 straight months. And they're still in first place because they're the Los Angeles Dodgers. Death, taxes, and somehow the Dodgers win the NL West. I mean, I would definitely move Bellinger. I would definitely move Stroman. They've already made it clear they're not going to sign Stroman to an extension, even though Stroman's made it abundantly clear he wants to sign an extension there. I'm not really sure what the relationship is. I haven't heard anything negative on either end. But if it's looking like they're not going to sign him back, they should move him, get everything they can, and keep continuing to build/rebuild. I just simply don't know what free agents are going to come up this next year that are going to make the Cubs be able to move the needle forward. They're in the second worst division in Major League Baseball, and quite frankly, they're just middle of the pack, and that is not a place you want to be, not with the Reds starting to surge the way they are. And by the way, the Reds have one of the worst bullpens in, baseball, and one of the worst pitching staffs in baseball, but their offense is that electric.